Hey everybody, I am joined right now by Ben Sims. He's the director of the new Escape The Undertaker interactive film that's coming to Netflix. You can check it out October 5th. How you doing today?
Good, good. How about yourself?
Not too bad. I got a chance to check out the trailer this week that dropped. Got a chance to watch the film. It's a fun adventure. Like, I know it's interactive, like that is advertised, but it's really a lot different than what people might expect going in. One thing I'll point out is the Undertaker is much more sinister than maybe WWE fans are used to in the past few years. Can you just talk about, how you got the project, how you tried to make it authentic to WWE, but also, kept it within your vision as a director?
Mhm. Yeah, so yeah, I've done quite a few different interactives for Netflix. I've done their You versus Wild series, and we've done quite a few episodes of those. So I work quite a bit with Rob Bookta and Liz Schultz, who are the executive producers on the project. So they initially had brought it to me, and we've worked together hand in hand on a lot of projects. So it just, once I got to know more about it, was something I really couldn't say no to. But yeah, I think as far as, the Undertaker, and obviously he has a very long and rich history. The biggest thing I wanted to do was bring something new to the WWE, or perhaps show him in a light that he hasn't been seen, but at the same time, sort of have that balancing act of making sure I'm true to the lore and the history, he has as a character already. So yeah, so it's good to hear. It sounds like hopefully I got close with that. If there's, sort of a new take on him, or maybe a new side that's revealed with this, but still has some of his authenticity.
Yeah, and I mean, he's had a background, but I feel like this almost adds to it, and it makes a lot of sense. Like, without giving the entire plot away, like there are some details in there that, when you think about it, like it makes total sense. And then there's some other nods. Uh, like he had a manager, and there's some other references that fans have just known on TV that's like part of his character. But then this fits in so well. And then as a contrast, like the New Day has always been very charismatic, fun. Uh, it's still very much Halloween, a horror movie, but at the same time, it's not taking away what they do well either. Like the comedy's still there. One line I really appreciated, that they're talking about going through this haunted mansion, and they go, who has a morgue in their house? And it's like, well, it is the Undertaker. And
Right.
it's just one of those sort of kind of like dry jokes, but at the same time fits both the Undertaker
Right.
and the group themselves.
Yeah, no, that's there's a lot of, the one thing I like about horror suspense is being able to sort of release the pressure valve just for a moment, in situations like that. Because a lot of times when people are uncomfortable or afraid, they'll laugh, like it's on the spectrum of emotion. It's actually, laughter's been pretty close to, being scared, out of your mind. So it's sort of and those guys, I mean, they're awesome performers, and that's the type of stuff that they just, it was very easy to find those moments for them, and they would, present them most of the time, because they're just an amazing set of characters. So it was fun to see that sort of play out, once we actually got to shooting. Because, yeah, sure, aspects of it were planned, but one of my goals going in, especially because they're just so used to live, was to essentially set up a playground for them and then just turn them loose and just sort of see, what would come of that. And I think a lot of the better moments came just from the spontaneity of them, interacting with what was happening.
You mentioned earlier that you've done some of the You versus Wild interactive films. The newest one, Out Cold, is available now, but those are very much grounded in real life, where he's in the wilderness and like, oh, do you want me to jump off of this? Like, I could get hurt. Like, should I approach this animal? I can get, like stuff like that. Like, um, but this is very much story based. You said, adding to the lore. Did that make it any easier for you, or did it present a challenge for you now going into this world where you do have two very distinctly established characters in the WWE universe?
Yeah, I mean, there were certainly different types of challenges, like as you mentioned, with a lot of the U versus Wild stuff, there's complications to just the environment and like actual danger for where we're shooting and stuff. So that's, something that's managed a certain way when I'm shooting with Bear. With these guys, it was just the challenge was how do we just squeeze every ounce of production value and time, to really make this thing sing and just have a lot of, because of the interactivity, just make sure that it's consistent as well, because there's so many different versions of how you can watch it. I think what was interesting with having the characters, like you had mentioned earlier, there's certain things as you can scour online that are just, I was surprised were still a mystery, or sort of, especially with the Undertaker. I mean, that's to me is what's so fascinating about the character is he's, a man of few words, and there's so much that's seemingly known about him, but there's a lot that's sort of just shrouded in mystery. And that's what made it, I would say the challenge in that aspect, as far as the storytelling was, just kind of inching closer to filling in those gaps without making it, seem too ridiculous or just too outside of the world that Team WWE has already created. And same goes with the New Day. It was like everybody on the project just wanted to make sure that it stayed within the world of WWE and the characters that already exist, and maybe just nudges it a little bit further, and gives a little bit more of a, just kind of depth to everything, which I by the end I felt pretty good about.
How much of a wrestling fan or a WWE fan were you before this?
I mean, I was growing up, I not as much in recent years, mostly just out of making rather than watching. But I mean, I've obviously known the Undertaker, for most of his career. I mean, it would be hard not to, whether you're a wrestling fan or not. And I was familiar with the New Day, but until I actually got to, on set with them, I mean, I was extremely impressed. And I think they balanced well, just both being sort of the old school versus the new school, just very different ends of the spectrum in terms of personality, but all talented. It was just like a really good match, I think, to have them, in tandem on this project.
Yeah. And the reason I asked was I was curious if there's any other wrestlers you'd maybe like to work with, or maybe other WWE stories that, maybe you'd like to explore, similar to how you said, some of these things that about the Undertaker were never really tapped into over the years. Is there any other stories you'd maybe like to tell in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's just, as a whole, they've got such an expansive roster of characters and talent. I mean, there could be so many different iterations, I think, of this, whether it's a continuation of this or something entirely new within the same world, of characters, even retired superstars from the past. I think it could be interesting, to sort of bring back into the fold in this way. I think what was another thing that was most interesting about a lot of it is anybody who has been part of the WWE family that has gone on to do other stuff, for the most part, to my knowledge, they're generally not their character. They're not the persona they were, when they were in the ring. And that was another thing that kind of drew me to this, is it was an opportunity to do something adjacent to that and make it, cinematic and big and just a much different look, but still, again, within that world. I think that'll be the fun part, is hopefully fans that are fans of obviously the live shows and stuff will, feel at home watching this, I guess.
Yeah, it's very on brand in a great way. Like I said, it highlights the New Day and the Undertaker's strengths. And the cool thing about talking about this with you and just in general is you don't really have to worry about spoilers because you're not getting the same story, so you can watch it over and over. But uh, October 5th it comes out. It's going to be a talking point because, like I said, you don't get the same story. It's not as straightforward as it seems. That was a very nice surprise. Uh, Escape the Undertaker comes out October 5th, and you can check out You versus Wild Out Cold now on Netflix. Ben, thanks very much for your time.
Yeah, you bet.